Have you ever felt creepy when you were alone at night? Feeling like someone was watching you from a hidden corner, or strange noises coming from a place no one could explain? The stories you are about to hear below are not products of imagination, but real experiences that have haunted the people involved for life. Make sure you don't watch alone, because by the end of the video, you might have to rethink being home alone at night. If you are brave, comment number 1. But if you are afraid of facing mysteries, comment number 0. And don't forget, watch until the end. The last story might haunt you forever. Story 1. Home Alone Encounter. One cold Friday night, 12-year-old Jamie and his 13-year-old sister, Danielle, were home alone. Their parents were out, and the house, despite its average size, echoed with every little noise. Both siblings were in their upstairs room, absorbed in their own activities, when Jamie heard a light knocking coming from downstairs. Curious, he assumed it was Danielle playing a prank and decided to investigate. The knocking grew louder as he approached the den, and Jamie soon realized it was coming from the back door. Turning on the outside light, he was startled to see a man he did not recognize. A stranger who appeared to be in his mid-40s with dark graying hair and rosy cheeks stood at their back door with a pleading look on his face. Jamie nervously opened the window to listen to the man. The stranger said he needed to use their phone. Jamie, feeling uncomfortable, asked why he was in their backyard. Ignoring Jamie's question, the man persisted, his pleas growing more desperate. As Jamie tried to close the door, the stranger blocked the door with his arm and tried to reach inside. Panicking, Jamie yelled for Danielle. Hearing her brother's screams, Danielle rushed to the study and caught a glimpse of the man through the stairs. She quickly called her parents, who told them to call the police and stay upstairs. For a moment, everything was quiet. Gathering her courage, Jamie ventured downstairs again. The man was no longer at the door, but Jamie noticed the window was slightly open, something he did not do. As he approached, he saw that the office door, which had been closed, was now slightly open. Grabbing her phone, Jamie used the camera's flash to peer into the darkened office. The flash revealed the man hunched over his desk, his head turned, looking directly at Jamie. Frightened, Jamie ran upstairs, locking the door behind him. The familiar knocking began again, accompanied by the man's hoarse voice begging to be let in. Jamie, shaking, lied that the police were there. The knocking stopped, followed by the sound of the back door opening and closing. When the police finally arrived, the man was gone. While Jamie's quick thinking may have frightened him, the incident left both brothers in shock, grateful that they had avoided a potentially dangerous encounter. Story 2. Incident at the hunting cabin. In the remote wilderness of Braxton County, West Virginia, Cliff decides to take his girlfriend's brother, Adam, on his first hunting trip. They ask permission to stay at Cliff's uncle's hunting cabin for the weekend, eager for an adventure. When they arrive, the cabin, isolated and primitive, does not meet their expectations. It is a small 2-room structure with no curtains and only lanterns for light. Although uncomfortable, they decide to make the most of it, hanging clothes in the windows for some semblance of privacy. That night, just as they are getting ready for bed, a loud noise breaks the silence. It sounds like metal trash cans banging against each other. Cliff, trying to calm Adam's rising panic, assumes it might be a bear. However, tensions rise when they hear scratching along the cabin wall, followed by tapping on the window next to Adam's bed. Both men froze, too frightened to move the clothes covering the window. Cliff instructed Adam to load his gun while he did the same. They spent the night on high alert, strange noises ringing out intermittently. At dawn, they rushed back to Cliff's uncle, who swore he was not playing a prank on them and had no idea what could have caused the disturbance. Cliff's father, shaken by the experience, vowed never to return to the creepy cabin again. Story 3. The Creepy Motel Experience. At just 19, Emma finds herself working at a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. It's a place that seems to attract the wrong kind of attention, with police visits being almost routine. She balances her dual roles as receptionist and housekeeper, a challenging combination that often lands her in unsettling situations. One late afternoon, as it drizzles outside, Emma is assigned to clean a room in the motel's deserted back building. This part of the motel is the most dilapidated and isolated, which is what she dislikes most about working there. The silence is eerie, amplifying every creak and groan of the old building. She's cleaning a mirror, lost in her thoughts, when she suddenly sees a reflection that makes her heart skip a beat. A man who looks to be in his mid-50s stands behind her. He was dirty, with long, greasy hair and a menacing look. Startled, Emma screamed and turned around, her pulse racing. The room was supposed to be empty, so his presence meant nothing, or he trying to calm herself. She recalled her recent customer service training and forced a polite smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. The man, whose crooked smile made her shiver, held out a $100 bill. "I'm Terry, and I'm staying next door with my wife, Jerry. We were hoping you could join us for a little fun." Alarm bells went off in Emma's head. No one would tip that much for a cheap room. She knew something was seriously wrong. "No, thank you," she replied, trying to keep her voice even. "I have work to do." Terry's smile faded into annoyance. "Come on, it'll be fun," he insisted, stepping closer. Emma backed away, her fear rising. She spoke firmly. "No, I really can't." Terry left the room. Emma hurried to lock the door, her hands shaking. She needed to call for help, but when she picked up the phone in the room, it didn't ring. Panic set in. Her cell phone was outside on the cleaning cart. Emma mustered up the courage, cautiously opening the door and peering out. Seeing no one, she quickly searched the cart for her phone. Once she found it, she heard Terry's voice shouting to the others, "She's running. She's getting away." Her heart pounding, Emma ran to a nearby warehouse and locked the door. She could hear the footsteps and frantic searching of Terry and his men just outside. She remained hidden, trembling for what felt like an eternity. After 30 agonizing minutes, the noise outside stopped. Emma mustered up the courage and ran to the front desk. As soon as she entered, she collapsed into her boss's arms, sobbing. The police were called immediately, but Terry and his accomplice had fled by the time they arrived. In the following weeks, the police arrested Terry, who had a history of assault. Shocked by the incident, Emma quit her job and vowed never to work at a motel again. The experience left her deeply insecure and reminded her of the dangers that could lurk in the most unexpected places. Story 4. The Mysterious Girl. One cold October, my boyfriend and I decided to escape our busy lives by camping in rural Canada. The weather was far from ideal, cold and rainy, but we were determined to make the most of it. We found a secluded spot in the dense forest and pitched our tents, not seeing a soul. The solitude was both refreshing and a little unsettling. To warm up, we decided to hike a steep trail that led to a lookout point. The climb was challenging but exhilarating, and the view at the top was worth every step. As we began our descent, rain began to fall, and the temperature seemed to drop even further. We were about halfway there when I felt an inexplicable urge to glance back. There, walking a short distance behind us, was a little girl no older than 7 or 8. The girl was wearing only a thin t-shirt completely unsuited to the harsh weather. Her black hair was plastered to her head, wet from the persistent rain. She hummed a soft, almost hypnotic tune to herself, seemingly oblivious to the cold and damp conditions. She didn't acknowledge us, and her appearance was so sudden and out of place that I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. I nudged my boyfriend and pointed at the girl. He turned around, and we both stared in disbelief. Who was she? Why was she alone in these conditions? We continued walking, occasionally glancing back to see if she was still there. Each time, she got a little closer, her humming never ceasing. Once we saw her dancing, her t-shirt fluttering in the cold wind, but she remained strangely indifferent to her surroundings. When we looked back a 4th time, she was gone. As suddenly and mysteriously as she had appeared. We stopped in our tracks, scanning the trail and the surrounding woods, but there was no trace of her. No sound of her humming, no footprints on the muddy path. Just the steady rain and rustling leaves. A sense of dread washed over us. Where could she have gone? The trail was narrow and there was no visible way she could have disappeared so quickly. We picked up our pace, a mix of fear and anxiety pushing us forward. My mind raced with questions. Should we call out to her? Try to help her? Where were her parents? By the time we reached the campsite, we were both soaked and extremely nervous. The image of the girl still haunted my mind. We packed up and left the campsite the next morning, unable to shake the strange feeling that had gripped us. To this day, I still wonder about that little girl. Was she real or had we imagined her? And if she was real, what happened to her? The encounter remains a cold, unexplained mystery, a haunting reminder of how strange and inexplicable moments can happen in the most unexpected places.